just to provide, an example of a budget, an example of, what you would need for taxes. So hopefully, this is a book that we're hoping that, get you started, and you can add to and grow this book as you kind of get into your duties from your conservation district. And then we have, the Montana Conservation District Employee Organization donated a lot of swag to this event. So we have this new book that they put out, some goodies in there. Chris has some t-shirts back there too. So that, we really appreciate the employee organization for donating that. And then the last thing I kind of wanted to point out, and so you guys will find this little flash drive in here with little, cool little keychain to remind you that this is from your boot camp, so you don't lose it. A few years ago, an administrator named Carrie Hess was with Petroleum County, and she had gotten a grant to do a admin toolbox. So I have a copy of that, and it had just come out when I got started in 2019 is when I got started. So I haven't been here with the CDs that long, but there's lots of information on there. Although some of it may now be a little outdated, I thought it would be a great tool for you guys to have. So I copied that onto the flash drive, and then any information that the speakers gave us, I also copied onto this flash drive. So again, this is something that can grow with you throughout your process, along with the binder. So hopefully you guys find them very useful and have the reminder of the boot camp. I tried to find military boots, but couldn't find them, so we had to go up that way to these places. So we have a lot to cover on the boot camp, and I really appreciate everybody coming here. This is the first time that I think a training's been put on by an area that's being taught by admins for other admins. So I really thought that connection of the more experienced admins teaching the newer admins was a great thing, because who knows how to do our job better than, well, we do. And every CD is a little bit different, and I understand that, but at the same time, we all have the same basic duties for the most part. So that's kind of how we came up with the topics to discuss. If there's something else you guys want to talk about, please let me know. We'll try to find time for it and everything. So we're just going to kind of get started. Angie and I just decided to kind of talk about monthly duties. I really didn't do a presentation for it.
We're going to wing it.
Yeah, we're winging it. Because everybody's monthly duties and everybody's task lists are a little bit different. So we're just gonna kind of go through some of the stuff that we do on an average day and just have some discussion on it. If you guys want to know more, if it's not something that you do or whatever, we're looking for a lot of participation in this. So, feel free to just jump in there whenever you guys have a question or anything that you'd like to talk about. So we'll go ahead and wing it. So, I'm just looking at the task list that we have in your binders and everything, and just kind of going through this. Of course, everybody knows, emails, phone calls, visitors, and stuff like that. That's pretty simple. Bookkeeping duties, that gets, I know, into different realms for some people. Some admin or some CDs have that stuff contracted out, some do them themselves. So I know that there's a lot of information on the EO page for QuickBooks, if that's what you use. When I first started at my CD, they were still doing the manual ledger and QuickBooks. So I convinced them that I didn't need to write things down anymore because it's all in this nice little computer.
One of the problems you have with some boards is they get so used to the way things were done, and they don't want to move into doing things in a new way, such as moving into QuickBooks, because reading that QuickBooks report at their monthly meetings is to them like they're trying to read Greek. And it's more or less just getting your board to realize you're learning something new, but it's still the same thing. It's the same old in a new form, but that's a lot of problems we find with admins is that their board doesn't want to move into the new. They don't like the look of anything different. They don't like to stay with their same old. Yep. So.
I know that there's a lot of us that are still in the NRCS offices. So, communicating with them, working with them on, long range plans, conservation planning, local working group meetings and stuff. I'm very lucky. I get along great with the two DCs that I've had in my office. We're working together to update both the CD's long range plan and the NRCS long range plan to kind of flow together. And then we always have a local working group meeting to see what the priorities are in our community. And so far, I've been really lucky that those priorities have coincided with what NRCS is trying to do. Kind of what's your experience with your NRCS department?
I've been really lucky for the past 10 years. I've had two great DCs in my office. We all work together great. When I need any advice or help from them, they never hesitated on stepping up and helping me. If they need anything from me, it's the same for them. It's been a great working relationship. So I've been lucky. So I've heard other offices having issues. And yeah, that has been the case for me.
So for the new people that have just started, has NRCS come up to you and set a specific meeting to talk about how you guys have partnered in the past or how you can partner in the future? It's fine if nobody has. I'm just wondering. I found my experience that one of the biggest conservationists I have. I don't think they're directors here, but they're friends. I just wondered if there were any people who stepped up and were like, hey, this is how we used to partner.
Do your guys' NRCS participate in your board meetings? Sometimes it's really. Mine participates every month, and then we have it set in our APO. Then we have a specific board meeting every year where they come in, we go over MOU or intent services, how we're gonna work together. And we've been real consistent on it, and we always have their participation in every single board meeting to let us know anything that's going on in their offices, any contracts, any inputs, anything. So like we've kind of made it mandatory. Like they are on my agenda. Like, we're speaking at this time.
Yeah. And you've been there for like 10 years.
10 years. Yeah.
And so I guess I'm just wondering about all the new people because we have a ton of new people.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Maybe that's something you guys look at as seeing if they'd be willing to be put on your agenda and participate in your monthly board meetings, keep cooperative relationship going in the office.
Sorry.
Nope, sorry.
I have a lot of questions.
That's what we want.
That's what this is for.
I'm new in the office and our representative is there every year. And so they're kind of been a huge assistant to me, even more so than the board. As far as, we look at this, talking with this letter, we give us good advice on that. And so I'm learning that they're there and explaining.
Is that the DC, is she definitely one?
Even after rejection.
I think there are a lot of new NRCS people
There
out
is.
there in the state too, right? So
Thank
I
you.
don't know I don't know if anybody knows that we're supposed to be talking here.
That's true.
I don't know what anybody knows.
I'd like to see how many people co-locate. Maybe
Kind of a lot.
I think that
To speak on the new though, I'm not new, but my DC left and I have a new DC.
Yeah.
And promoted from within the building, so that maybe made a difference, but when he came on, he very openly was like, I see that your relationship with the past one was terrible. Let's do better. I like these things that we did together. Let's keep doing those. And so that was really a really nice relationship. So, yeah.
Well, I have a question too, because Diane said that somebody brought a letter to you from their work. Is that what you said? Oh,
I'm talking about trouble.
I don't know. You mentioned a letter that your NRCS person asked you about. Are you someone, you're not expected to support them in having.
Oh, yes, I am. So in my office,
In-kind services.
in-kind services, there are certain days that I'm there, and if they're gone, I change it. So I've been in the office with somebody there, so yeah, I do. Co-work, yeah.
Like, the in-kind services involve certain things, like you're doing their mailing for them, you're answering the phones for them, you're greeting people at the door for them.
I mean, that's exactly what it's about.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
People actually do. Yeah, lesbian and.
Yeah.
But it works both ways in my office. If I'm not there, or if I gotta be in the field, or something's going on, my NRCS is the same for me. They will assist me if I've got somebody who's stopping my drill off that day and I cannot be there. They'll do my drill check and stuff for me. They answer the phone if I'm not there. And we work together very well, but, you know, I work with the same NRC. We've got 3 new ones, but I've worked with basically my same group for 10 years. So we have a good working relationship, and when you're coming into new, I think like, well, yours is one, that's awesome. I wish more of them would do that. And how to get that initiated, I don't know if that's something that as the admins, we have to just like pull up the straps and be like, I'm taking the lead.
EO is working on this.
Is it?
Yes. This is also one accusation.
Something in our MOU with our NRCS person that says you will be at the meetings and you will provide notes and.
Yeah.
And all this stuff.
But I think that depends on the district in the office, like our MOU is the same, and we go over it every year. It's in our APO of, okay, this is the month that we're gonna talk about this, re-sign, reevaluate, make any changes if we feel, which, you know, the NRCS and the CD, we can make changes to it yearly if we want. But I don't know if an MOU is like actually mandatory. I don't know if that's something in every office. I assumed it was, but that's just.
I think if you're in an NRCS office, you have to have an MOU, I guess, because it is that ship agreement. Because their little bean counters need to know that we provided a service for them in order for them to give us the computer services and everything like that.
That's paid.
Yes.
Yeah.
2019, the MOU was redone.
Yeah.
And it should have been signed with every district in 2020. All of those MOUs are supposed to be pretty much exactly the same. The thing that's not the same is the unfunded cooperative work agreement, which is co-located with NRCS. You have an unfunded cooperative work agreement, and that's where the nitty-gritty and specifics to your office are supposed to be reported. And I've seen some tremendous examples of NRCS taking way advantage of the conservation district and the board members sign up. And so that's something I'm actually gonna talk about. But
Well, and I'd like to say too, because in our MOU, you know, it's all about what the conservation district is gonna do for NRCS in exchange for my office space, my, you know, supplies and stuff like that. However, the cone, you know, offers a lot to NRCS in regards of equipment storage and storage for, you know, their ATVs and trailers and stuff. But, you know, they didn't want any part of that, putting that in the MOU, what we do for them. Or what, you know, what we offer them, it was just what they wanted us to do, so I don't feel it's a true MOU, it's a farce. Sorry.
Did you guys bring up those issues at our meeting once before you signed?
the pandemic.
Well,
Probably not.
True.
still, we discussed it, but at that time, you know, it was we read, you know, between acting DCs and supervisory DCs, and, you know, we've switched people so many times. But, yeah, you know, the acting DC for Circle then, Absolutely. You know, I brought it up, but, no, they don't wanna discuss that, you know, it's all what conservation district is gonna do for them. And not recognize, you know, the things that we offer too.
So I know when we redid our MOU, you know, I sat down with my DC. And basically, you know, what I kind of got out of the discussion was kind of the same thing. We're providing you with all this. It costs X amount of dollars to give you computer software, desk space and stuff like that. So we need to make sure we're getting our return on our investment type of a deal. And, you know, what are you providing for us? And it, you know, I've always pretty well been in line with the priorities that my NRCS office is having. Our conservation district lines up with that very well. But if you're offering extra storage for them or something, I think that should be in there because a lot of this, you know, like he explained it to me, it's for the bean counters, the accountants that don't understand the partnership, don't understand what we're doing. Every time I have a training, every time I have a workshop, every time I, you know, do something that aligns with their priorities, I write it down and at the end of the year, I hand them this list of, okay, I did a weed workshop this year. I had a fuel mitigation workshop this year. You were all invited to attend. Hell, you probably. And that's how I'm, you know, being counting back to you to provide the service for the office space that you provide to me. So I think we just kind of need to make sure that we are providing that information back, that if we are doing extra things like providing storage or something that's in there next time that contract comes up, so. They may have any other questions about partnerships, MOUs, anything like that?
So Chris, you're gonna talk about that new form in 2019, because I went through and I saw that our MOU had been glanced at in 2017. So we reviewed that, just a month ago and find it got any changes, but of course, I'm not sure what changes should be made. But you said there was a new change in 2019.
Yeah, caused by hullabaloo across the state too, because it's pretty much, you shall sign this or you shall exit the building. I'm doing. Yeah,
See, we didn't sign ours.
well, they threatened, they probably didn't follow through, but they did, I had long conversations with someone about it. And he basically came right out and said, well, if you guys don't sign it, I'm not sure about the status of your being able to be in the building.
Okay.
We redid ours. We didn't agree with it. My board luckily had, you know, our back, and even my DC, he didn't agree with the new write-up.
Yeah.
So
The MOU is basically something that came down from national, as I understand it. It's a cooperative work agreement.
And so
They
we were
did
all
have-
supposed to use that?
The MOU, yeah.
But there was a time period, so when they originally sent that out, there was a time period to go over and make changes to individual one.
Well, not to the MOU,
No, there was, because that's what Jeff and I did.
but they didn't make the changes.
I think it was
Because
for individual offices.
Pages of changes.
And they didn't do it for you?
No, they,
See, no,
no, they're supposed to be the same, every district is supposed to be the same.
yeah, mine was not ours, it's not.
And you-
Because we didn't agree to all the stuff that they had in the one. And Jeff and I sat down as my chairman, we sat down and basically we were okay with the old one, not the new one. We made very little changes as far as that one, but we didn't agree with the new one. Jeff and I both signed. We didn't sign the one that was sent out.
So this underlines what was said earlier, that every conservation district is different.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, anything that's said in the next day and a half, 2 days, could be interpreted differently by George district.
Yes.
Most things, so
Yeah.
that's by statute.
Yeah.
But if you're co-located, you have an MOU with the CWA, we should look into it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you don't have.
I just read mine last week.
You're complicated, need to get something.
Is there a way to tell if you have the most current, what is there like?
It should be dated 2020. On it, should be dated 2020, unless you've had one since then. We did one this summer, but your district conservationists should have a copy.
Yeah.
Just to be dated 24. I just wanna make sure we have the most current.
Yeah, and Lee, you're talking to easy.
Okay, I'm new, with the CWA.
Throw these acronyms around, okay, so you know what they mean.
And I'm like, you don't know. That was one of the things I asked, like, can I get a cheat sheet with all these actions? What are they?
And there is one floating around. And I haven't seen it.
I didn't even know this was a thing, like these MOUs, CWA.
Like, you don't know what you
I
don't
know,
know.
Yeah,
it's too much time, like, it's somewhere in our buildings. Yes.
It's hidden under the floor. In the bathroom.
the skeleton. Love a skeleton.
Yeah.
At the very, what I'm carrying the words, 2020 becomes the year that they changed, so there may be new ones in.
And we review them every year. We go through a year.
I have to go see, it's like,
Ours is every strike, so I'm glad that one. Oh, do you want me to like share Jeff with you? Because Jeff's a lead. I mean,
So, you know, something to keep in mind, if you have a list of, you know, what you do on a monthly basis, what you do on a yearly basis for your conservation district. I know the gal that I took over for had a list on, in January I do this, in February I do this, so. Set that on your annual list of to-dos, so to go over your MOUs and your cooperative agreements with your board. And then with the NRCS, so, you know, that's a really good thing to put on there. So that kind of leads us into, you know, one of our duties is records retention. We didn't put records retention in our boot camp. That's kind of a large,
it's a training all on its own.
large thing to go over, but I know that there are some trainings on the EO page that you can go watch. If you haven't been on the MCDEO page, please go on there. There is a wealth of information. Chris posts monthly meetings on different training topics. That's all recorded. That's all put on the EO page. This training here, is gonna be recorded and put on the EO page. So.
I found you again, the EO page, is there a link from like the MCD page or how do you?
It's 20, stuff, maybe that. Actually, there is a link.
It's on this
From
side.
there,
From. It was okay.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
I'll say just one thing about records retention, because it was one of my duties in one of my previous ones. And that is why I checked into Secretary of State now, I can have our time, even that electronic media can be your record. You don't necessarily have to print thousands of reams of paper, as long as you can always retrieve it. So if it's on a floppy or a 5.5 inch disc, which some of you have never heard of, you retrieve it. But, you know, you can save it electronically.
Chris is probably gonna go into some of that when we get into the admin transition. We've had a lot of discussions on how conservation districts need to keep and retain records from one admin to another. I know we kind of, yeah, we've had a lot of discussions on that, so we'll kind of go over that tomorrow. But I know when I got into my office, the gal that had been there before me had been in there for 9 years. The gal before her was 15 years. And I opened the filing cabinet drawer and there's stuff from like 1989. And I'm like, holy crap. So I kind of like gently pushed them all into a box and I haven't got to them yet because, you know, got busy with stuff. But that's a training that's really good to watch and kind of understand what we need for records retention and stuff like that. And then when we are transitioning out, if you are leaving or going to another position and you've got a new person coming in, you know, making sure they understand the records that are there is extremely important. Where are they? on the computer? Where are they in a filing cabinet? And just passing that information on. If you are going to leave before the next person comes in, make a list for them. You know, when you do payroll, it goes into this file, it's in this filing cabinet, you know, just kind of put that stuff in your mind for the new person coming on board. It's really, really helpful.
Before I got to the district, they kind of went through a string of, they never kept anyone longer than, I think the longest one that was there was not quite 3 years. And they went through this string. And the one that had been there for 15 years before they went through this span of like 6 or 7 of them that didn't stay very long, she had made a file just for the admins to tell you your daily duties, monthly duties. It was an awesome file. Called one, I couldn't get into my computer for 3 months. I had no way to get to this file. She never put a paper copy out.
Yeah.
So I had to wait pretty far into my job before I could actually get to this file that she had left for the new admin. And nobody ever added to it, 'cause like the girls that kind of came and went, none of them felt comfortable adding to it. So that was one thing that I kind of would recommend is put your 2 cents in. Yeah, every little bit of 2 cents helps sometimes. And make it accessible.
Yeah. So we touched base on financial records a little bit, bookkeeping systems. I know a lot of conservation districts use QuickBooks. There are QuickBooks trainings out there. I know Bighorn uses Quicken. I know when the previous admin for Bighorn, they were still using the general ledgers and writing everything down. So she got them in, you know, so it's different for every conservation district. Some contract it out, some you have to do. But there are trainings if you have questions. You know, one good thing about having events like these is putting a face to a name and knowing that, you know, hey, I can call this person up and ask them a question because I'll let them. And for me, it's nicer to meet somebody in person and call them up and ask them a question than just like randomly call some stranger and say, hey, well, I work for this CD and I have this question and somebody told me to call you. So that's the great thing about these events. So if you have questions on that or need some training on that, it is on the employee organization website. Yes.
Does anybody know how to, change the contact person in your QuickBooks account? On mine, it is tough. That's not. You have to log into it, you know. Or you have to get in your into it account. You do not into it. You have to access. Okay, I'll talk to people.
Is there a QuickBooks, that's QuickBooks? Guys, some questions about QuickBooks.
Okay.
The employee organization also has somebody that developed QuickBooks training manual for us, and you can call her at any point. If one of us is busy or can't answer the question, we have a specific person call who knows more about conservation district financial systems.
Okay.
So Heidi, is that on the website, that training manual or?
The training manual is up.
Okay.
The contact information for that one probably is.
Right.
But what if I can get added, get that around?
So, you know, everybody has agendas, meeting minutes, and stuff like that. My board really doesn't get involved with my agenda too much. I pretty much write the agenda that we're gonna talk about. I don't know how your guys' boards usually kind of go on, but I unfortunately have a board that's not very involved in my conservation district, and I've been spending the last 3 or 4 years trying to pull them in and get involved. But basically, I kind of make up the agenda based on the information I'm getting and go into the meeting and I'm like, this is what I'm doing. And they're like, okay. So I'm hoping your boards are more involved. I know Angie's board is a lot more involved than mine is, so
They were when I started.
yeah.
It was more,
Are they supportive or?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Um,
Involved.
yeah. I'm like, I'm doing this and they're like, okay. And then we have a gal that has been on my board for as long as I've been alive, since 1975. Who's a very big penny pincher. So if I have to ask for any money for an event, she's like, well, do we really need to do that? So it's kind of like, come on. So you know, but if I can get a grant for it, if I can put it on, they're like, great, do it, good job. So, does anybody have any questions about agendas, meeting minutes, doing those, kind of a pretty standard thing?
Yes.
We actually, there's a section here where they talk about it being sent in monthly to the clerk and recorder to be signed. Are we supposed to be doing that?
Yeah.
Mine aren't signed.
Mine are fine.
We're supposed to.
So I do mine wrong. So what I do is I actually have each one in a yearly file, and at the end of the year, like when I'm doing all of the taxes and getting everything done, I send it out. And it's like, there you go. If there's something specific that they need, then it goes directly to them, like when we do our annual budget, things like that, they'll get it. Yeah, it's all on an electronic file and shares the year
And my process is a little different. I do my previous month meeting minutes, and I take it to the next month's board meeting. It gets signed by my chairman, it gets signed by me, and then
and we do that.
I send it out to the county, DNRC and.
On one of these, it said something about posting it on your front door.
The meeting notices,
Okay.
The minutes get signed and sent to. You could do that, not as monthly, but as long as it gets done eventually, but yeah, copies.
I think it's gonna be talked about more in the next section.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, so we do go over that in more detail. This is just kind of really high level stuff. So talking to your board about district needs, challenges, taking information to your board. So when I was hired on, I have a degree in natural resources, and I'm all into sustainability and all this stuff. So I'm like, oh, I got this cool job. I can do all kinds of stuff. And I spent probably a day or two like listing out all these different activities we can do and the grant funding I could get for it. And it was like a front and back page, and I was like so excited, and I presented it to my board. And I'm like, guys, what do you want to do? And they're like, well, I suppose we could do some 310 training and mesonet stations. And I'm like, theater stuff on here, and I got soil health stuff on here, and I got stuff on here. And they're like, hey, this is really disappointing. So communicating with your board, I've kind of, you know, like my board's pretty agreeable if I find funding for it to start a new program. And I'm like, okay, I'd like to apply for this grant to start this new program. And they're like, okay, and they let me go for it. So I don't know if that was the right approach for them, but like I was super excited. I came up with all this stuff and all these ideas and pushed it out to them. They were like, yeah, we haven't done that before. So, and it was just kind of the difference in administrators. So don't be afraid to go to your board with new ideas. Say, hey, I've got this new idea. Here's some grant funding that I can apply for it. Sometimes you have to apply, you know, approach it as, I found grant funding for a program. Can we do this? Instead of like, I found this really cool program. Can I find some funding for it and do it? So just kind of learning how to talk to your board and stuff like that. Supplies and different things that you guys sell. I know every CD is a little bit different. My conservation district sells bird escape ramps for water tanks, landowner maps, plant skid products for your gardens. We have weed matting. We rent out a no-till. We have 2 no-till drills that we rent out. We sell trees every year. What else? And then the rest are grant funded programs. So we have a fuel mitigation grant that we manage. So kind of everybody's a little bit different. knowing, you're gonna have to get from your previous admin or from some document, if that admin is there, like where they order these products at, how to get them and stuff, so. And don't be afraid to say, one thing I looked into one time was NRCS was doing a lot of stuff with, sage grouse, and they needed these little flags to put on fences and stuff, and so we kind of had some discussions on buying these little flags, but I guess you have to buy like a million of them in a box, and we never did, but I had that discussion with the conservation district because it was an opportunity to make a little extra money. We can buy these at 2 cents and sell them for 5 cents, and we know that they're needed because they come on all these CSP contracts and SGI contracts and stuff like that, so don't be afraid to kind of like bring up new ideas on products that your conservation can sell and utilize to bring a little income in and run some other programs with. Okay.
You covered it all.
Did good. Water reservations, that is not something that I am familiar with. I didn't find out we had water reservations in Lower Muscle Shell until last year when I had to do some renewal form, and I'm like, I don't know anything about this because we don't use them. But I know some of your CDs have that program. Randall's great to work with for that. I don't know anything about it beyond that. So
We've got 4 and I still don't understand it, so. So I'm thankful that he understands them.
Yeah.
District newsletters, when I first started, I did a quarterly newsletter. I unfortunately ran out of time to do newsletters, so if I can get one out a year, that's doing great for me. But I know newsletters are great. I know the community, it's a great way to communicate with the community and stuff like that. I found it more useful for my conservation district to just throw stuff out there on Facebook and share that with some of the local Facebook groups and roundup, to get advertising out there for some of my workshops and stuff. I haven't been able to touch our website. I know that's really outdated, but MACD is going to be helping with that, and I really, really appreciate that help and Eric Granstad doing that. So yes.
I guess I just had a question at large on newsletters. Does anybody still do a paper newsletter and or like strictly a paper with no electronic? And we all, we don't want to read it.
Have like a skill you guys only fall up and
So you love like that day.
it's fun after it's done.
When else do an only paper version, yeah. I guess I'm just trying really hard to get my board to see that, like, I understand with a lot of our older producers that would like the paper one, but we only do a paper one too.
Just
And now NRCS, my last DC said I couldn't print it in the office anymore because it was to too many producers. Now the new DC said, just come to us and don't come, maybe, I don't know. So I just wonder,
could you speak? Sorry, we don't have us just have a Facebook page that wasn't accessed by my. So I just kept doing everything that he does or did, and so we were talking about doing a website and putting the newsletter on website, but still doing a paper copy for some people, because I know a lot of our customers really like just having it in their hand. But I've noticed every time I've sent the letter out that I get more and more back every. So I don't know if it's, well, I have people who have been deceased address thing, and I have to figure out who's in the ground and who's still alive and doesn't want it. I don't know.
we only did 50 names when I just sent the last one out. Yeah. And thank God my DC knows everyone in town, but then I didn't have enough to have was like 250 for the permit. So if you had less than 250, then the post office won't send it. So I'm really struggling with my paper version.
Yeah, well, and we just buy a couple rolls of stamps and I stamp everyone and then put everyone just because the post office hates me. That's just how I do it.
Yeah, well, but our permit now, like we had to pay, I don't know, $200 for the permit, but then still $70 per newsletter for, I mean, so it's still a lot.
So we put mailing ours out, we have an electronic version, we do with 3 districts combined. And, you know, I still have those ones, you know, my ones that like their classic and sit and read it. And so I put mailing them and I put a little stack in the post office for people to grab one when they want, and I put a stack at our local coffee pole.
Yep.
Or, yeah, I put a stack back there and they grab them if they want them. I haven't had any complaints, and I live in a little community, trust me, if they're gonna complain, if it's a problem contacting me.
Okay.
So far that, yeah, great.
And charity.
Yeah.
To do, we have a county, one of our Granite County leaders that goes out every week or whatever, and how she wants to do something for that too. And do the paper copy. So, I don't know, yeah. Cause I have a lot of time on my hands.
Well,
I'm just here to listen to like guys.
and maybe you can put it in terms of like how it reflects on your budget. You don't have this postage cost, if you don't have the paper cost, if you don't have your time cost into putting this in there, you know, put in there that you can send it out electronic, you know, in your next newsletter. I can send this out electronically. Paper copies will be located in these 3 locations. And see if your board will go for that. Say, you know, hey, I can save us $100 a month, you know.
We offered a prize on the front page of our newsletter. Didn't say cash prize, we just offered a prize on the front page of our newsletter for a year. So that's only 4 of them. Not a single phone call, but my board still wants to send out all of these by paper with the stick. I mean, it's crazy.
That's such a sweet.
Totally.
What do you?
Put it in each one.
Yeah.
Or seasonal.
I know, I feel like letters get so repetitive because it's like maybe 1 or 2 articles that I can find to throw in there for something exciting, and that is like, so this is what we do, this is what we have. Here.
Yeah, so
Like
And it's just the same thing.
and then I'll do like the beetle thing for like in your hay. I did an article on that one, and then
yeah.
I do a weather report for the county on there, like a drought. And then you do like, I was gonna start doing like seasonal stuff, like it's calving season, so this is what you need to look for. Get a hold of this person for that, or like change. Stuff.
I guess this is the point where I was putting in a different, you know, not just we need to look for everyone's like, hey, so this is a new one, and then I was not, you know, contacted everybody in my team like, hey, have you got a recipe you want to share? I slap that on the back of this sucker so I can fill up the spot, and so then I got recipes that are out, you know.
It's just like FSA and RCS, all of that stuff in there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they did CRD stuff last year, and I got like, don't ask me, I just put it in there, don't even.
Yeah, you know, my previous admin put in jokes or funny story. I mean, you can pretty much put in, it's basically an advertising tool. So it's you know, explaining to your board the cost of your advertising and how it can function differently, can maybe trigger something with them, and, you know, discuss how you can advertise differently. Can you go through Facebook? Can you promote your website? Can you show up and spend $20 on a farmer's market table and have some promotional items there for your conservation district? It's getting to people, you know, getting people to know and understand that you're there, what you have to offer, and you're not an RCS.
I just wanna make it fun for the newsletter. I'm hearing a lot of negativity and how boring they are. I'm hard pressed to get mine under 8 pages. Just We've been doing newsletters all these years, and I solicit partner news and partner information on we have board members write articles. Usually I think the last one was 12 pages long. And so it goes out paper copy too, like 1,500 addresses, links on all this. And have it in diarrhea,
1,500 people.
I, yeah,
And you written in staple cold and we.
no, how do you do it? I have printer do it. It doesn't. But I mean, you have.
There's a little difference though
Be
between,
talking tomorrow about getting our story out, teaching people what we do. This is the way we teach people what we do with conservation. And I think just saying it's a boring thing.
It also depends on your information.
it does. Your district is
Here's
bigger and more active or.
you got more to do.
But tell people what you're doing.
Yes.
How do you tell people what your program is? And if you're not doing that in your newsletter, doing a newsletter, you want to.
If you're excited about it, it's gonna make them more excited. If you are, and you're ready, feel the same way.
So if you don't have one and your district really can't afford all those supplies, would that qualify for a district development grant? To get your word out?
I don't think that's right. I don't know. That would be something at this table. I don't know. That's a big one, it's not something that we've done in the past.
So. Chris, maybe make that a training topic at one of your monthly webinars, how to make an exciting newsletter.
Have a good lesson shape, Chris.
Yeah.
That's what we need you for, you know that, right?
Pretty sure say that with Roosevelt and Sheridan, we did a grant, like a bigger program, the soil health creation management initiative, and they had a newsletter as part of that. It was gonna be a point of the mind. It was part of the program. But that's not to say, I don't know if we haven't seen more of that.
So maybe that would be more into your administrative grant to cover the cost of materials, postage and stuff like that. Put that in your administrative grant budget.
And it usually does reflect on the admin, so that's where that is located. Last time around when we had the grant system in place, it was said we had a collaborative type of project where there were multiple teams that were involved in it. So let's say, for example, you wanted to submit a grant and you sponsor it, but it might be for area 1, and you want to learn more about, something like newsletters, and you wanted to be able to, grow it. That might be an idea, but we've really never seen anything like that. The district development grant is usually for projects that your district is doing specifically, and you need the additional grant hours to be able to do those projects. And so, it might be, you can think about it and submit it. Oh, yeah.
So. I think
It would require a lot more training and a lot more hours for me to learn how to do it. We've had the Canva and we've had the publisher, but.
And I will, just all agree with Chris that my attitude is very poor about it, and that that is, but it's just because. I advertise for prizes, so we ever fund it, and I still can't, because I couldn't print the office, I'm hand stapling, hand folding, they have to be taped twice. We don't have a printer, I guess Miles City would be our closest one, but my board is, hey, why, hey.
There's nothing wrong with using electronic, just as electronic.
Well, and that my board says, ask me how it's paper, I don't have to do an email.
A lot of people are researching.
Yeah. Read them and you put the stickers.
Stickers for you. Assembly line style, people.
Trustee, Stahl, or what Angie does, or maybe might go for something like that. You count a certain amount, you let people, so you. And that's just what,
I made a mental note, because I think that's
I guess I just knowing that they're getting thrown away after I did 2 days solid of my thumbs are off and folding the paper that I
Another idea, you know, a lot of businesses in Circle utilize our senior center. They take their bills down, well, not so much anymore because things are going more electronic, but even like Mid Rivers and, you know, the REA. Did take their bills down to the senior center and the seniors would get together, you know, 1 day a month for 3 hours and, you know, that stuff bills for Mid Rivers.
Or where the guys get coffee, gas station, and start there.
Your long-term care. I mean, a lot of times those activity directors, you know, they'll have folks do stuff. I don't know how many people or what their condition is, but our long-term care, you know, their residents do a lot of holding and stuff like that for different.
Yeah, for me, in my time and my schedule and what I've got my conservation district into, I found other avenues to advertise. You know, I do flyers whenever I have an event, I do Facebook and share it on known sites, you know, for the different counties. And so I just kind of found other ways to advertise a little bit better than the newsletter, so it went from kind of like a medium priority to a low, and if I can get to it, that's great. But that's just kind of my time constraint for the other programs that I've been involved with. So it all kind of boils down to how can you advertise for your conservation district? Let people know who you are. Every meeting I have, no matter what that meeting is about, I get up and talk about the conservation district and the programs that we have and the rental equipment that we have and the trees that we sell. And I spend 5 minutes talking to people about this is the conservation district and what we do. And I have, you know, paperwork that advertises that stuff that gets set out at every meeting. So, you know, just different ways to market yourself and advertise. You know, we go to a local trade show every year. One of my board members does that. And we go, I'm trying to convince them to let me go and sit at a farmer's market and talk to people about the CD. You know, so what other ways can you get involved and put yourselves out there in the community to get that? Do you have something you wanted?
I just had a quick question for Dustin. What do you suppose your districts, why do you suppose that your district, wants? What's the reasoning?
because none of them except for Dee like emails, none of my board, so that must be what the whole county does.
Yeah.
And so convincing them that we do have a population that was reading. I mean, it just, I try not to get into too much of a combat stage over little things, but none of them have, like, some of them don't even have a computer in their house, let alone. So
maybe it's an education to your board of maybe finding out, say, if you have within your community, other electronic newsletters, if you have bloggers in the community, or if you have, you know, those type of things. If you can bring that to your board and let them know that, yes, actually people do read books online, maybe it's changing.
yeah.
My whole thing with the topic thing is just the time thing for me, is the only thing I have an issue with, like, I can get a 5-6 page newsletter out, no problem. Too bad, have the time to sit down and do that, but we deal with all the returns for dry prairie, rural water, and I was just talking to Diane, they just sent me one application with 56 different sites on it. I was like, you gotta be joking right now. You don't even understand. Yeah.
So
I don't have an issue with readers, but it's just like that, the newsletter plus putting it in the leader, plus having it on the website. I only work like 20 hours a week in Free Ranch. It's not a full-time position.
I know that one of the previous administrators, in the past, she kind of had that same problem. She was just feeling too overwhelmed and, she's a young gal. She's also a college student, newly married. She wasn't finding the time. She actually went to our FFA kids and asked one of them if they would be willing to do that every month. And that one FFA kid came in and got class credit. And she wrote the newsletter. She did it for 2 years. And she did it for the conservation district. And I've had kids in, you know, since then, well, gosh, probably not in the last 5 years. I haven't had any kids, but when I first started, I had FFA kids come in like,
hey, would you be willing, well, can we write your newsletter if we get a class credit? My gosh, that's awesome.
Just
Yeah.
different. The first year. that's-
Totally bombard those little turds, they simply go.
So that kind of brings us to some of the educational programs that, I mean, educational programs, rental equipment. Items that you sell are different from CD to CD. There's some that are similar, but they, you know, like Angie and I both have no-till drills. Rosebud has a no-till drill. So
Wildlife round, snap loads, wall maps, I do flakes, you don't use the flakes, I do the flakes, I do the tree fabric, we all have different things, I do soil monitors, I've got the
Yeah.
water cubes.
So-
A little different, depending on who you are, what research you are, and what your area, like, you know, like you'll see. Some people have a 10 of 310, some areas don't, every area is gonna be different, so what you sell and what you're gonna promote out of your office is gonna be specific to your area.
yeah, so, you know, if you think, hey, I'd like to do something with soil health, you know, what we're trying to do with the EO is, kind of write down, when I first started, I wanted to know who did what. You know, and so that I knew who I could go talk to about, well, how did you write a grant for that? You know, like Heidi has an amazing pollinator program going on. How did she get started in that? How do I get that started here in my community if I want to do something? So we're trying to kind of come up with like a little bit of list, like, hey, this CD does these things. And hopefully we'll have that at the convention this year and just kind of let people know the different programs that are going on. You know, I've got a few litigation program that I've built up over the last few years that's just like steamrolling down the line, which is great. You know, Dusty has the same program going on and she needs some help with it. She knows she can come to me and I can say, hey, you know, this is what I'm doing. So these are the meetings that I'm having. These are the, you know, these are the contracts and the paperwork and how I write grants for it and stuff like that. So we can definitely help each other out as admins because everybody does something a little bit different. And knowing that we had that shared knowledge, if we want to do a similar program, I think is great for stuff like that. And it's also a way to get your board to kind of jump on board with something. If you can say, you know, hey, I want to do a pollinator program. And I know Heidi Fleury has a great pollinator program going on over in Lake County. Can I give her a call and talk to her about how she got started and what grants she uses and stuff like that, and then bring that information back to you guys? So maybe just get that conversation started with your boards that way and stuff.
Which I probably do that wrong with mine because, to get my board active, I go find out all the information, I bring it to them, like, check out what we can do. When do you want to start?
So let's see, what else do we have? Annual plan of operations, long range plans. That should all be on your, here's what I do this month every year, kind of checklist. If you don't have one of those, need some examples of those. I'm sure everybody kind of has one, so, not sure if we got one.
Yeah, I did.
Great. Angie put the books together, so thank her for that. She did awesome.
I would say that.
Budgets, so every board meeting has a budget, Angie does hers differently than mine. I print something out of QuickBooks and that's the financials that my board members look at every month.
Still trying to get my willing to look at QuickBooks, I've got 2 on board, but I got the rest that love their Excel sheets.
So just, you know, figuring out what your board is asking for, and if it's complicated and time consuming, maybe talk to them about doing stuff a little bit different.
Angie, so for that Excel sheet though, do you just export your report to Excel?
For my Excel sheet, and now it's all, it's like. a
So that
process.
that was kind of my stepping stone because I had board member. I handed them a P&L and a balance sheet and stuff at my first meeting, and they obviously didn't understand how to read it.
Yeah.
So they showed me what they wanted. So what I do is I literally just go in and I export those reports to Excel.
Excel, yeah.
They're looking at the same thing, but it's formatted a little different and makes sense to them. But that, if that's something that you can figure out how to do, and if you have any questions, contact me. It'll save you a lot of time
And
if
actually,
they don't want it, because they think that the different lines.
I know, and that's all it is different lines, it's like.
And that's it, like, it just doesn't make sense to them,
Yeah.
but that's a really good shortcut.
Something else that I've done for my board, and I've done it other places too, is you can take your QuickBooks reports. And out of that, you can make a quick dashboard. It's just an Excel sheet, but it's just a dashboard.
Yeah.
And you're plugging in, what's in your savings, what's in your banking, what is your major expenses, and what is your major income. And it's just a one sheet dashboard. You plug in the numbers and they have a quick view. And then what you're shown QuickBooks report, not quick, so overwhelming. But a lot of times the dashboard is super well.
A lot of new, when new administrators come in. Having my board having had that previous administrator for 9 years. They got used to all her habits and all of her patterns and everything that she did. So I come in and I'm more technologically advanced than she was. And so, I'm just kind of like, I kind of pushed a little bit. And I'm like, well, I know how to run computers a little bit better, so I'm gonna show you this in a different way. And finding that balance with your boards and stuff like that. County budgets, mill levies.
Some list that's in our books.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's in there.
I'm looking at principal duties, that list that's in your book. Just kind of bouncing around that sheet a little bit.
You also should have a daily task checklist, a monthly, a quarterly, can you get me one? These are just ran off of the things I use, so obviously. Don't, I don't actually expect to be determined.
So, yeah, these are just some examples
Yeah.
that put in the book.
Yeah, there's.
Take what you need from them.
Yeah.
If you don't need them, yeah.
Add what you want.
Where it's in the front section. It's called Principal Duties. I will Vanna White the form for you. Yes.
Okay.
So we want. Okay. So what else do you guys want to talk about? Monthly duties? What else do you do that I do differently or that may not be on this list or kind of what you guys want to talk about?
The principal duties list,
Yes.
I don't do any of the top except for. When in in line with the things.
Yeah, exactly.
My desk is the first desk everybody sees when they walk into the office. Well, actually, they see our building split FSAs over here and our CS and conservation districts there. Somebody made a little board that said, go here for this and go there for FSA. But when they walk into the NRCSA, my desk is the first person that they see.
I do all of it.
So what else do you guys have? What do you want to talk about?
Is there any more discussion, or do you guys want to have a quick break before we move on to the next thing, or?
Just some jumping jacks, calisthenics,
Lunges.
you have to lunch the bathroom and skip. Queen serving.
Well, we want to thank everybody for being here, and we hope that you guys can all get something out of this over the next 2 days. You guys are literally our guinea pig breath on this training. We're hoping that this will be something continued, and each district or each area will take this on every other year. So.
So for the newer admins, the EO puts on training every other year. So on the odd years, they have a training that is great to go to. It's on different topics and, stuff like that. So we knew this was kind of in between those odd years and stuff. Usually their trainings are a multi-day events. One time they had it at like this campground, and then last year it was at Red Lodge and stuff. So they make them fun, and it's really great, opportunity to network and stuff like that at those events as well. So we kind of created this training in hopes that, we did this as area 4. So we're hoping that, another area wants to pick this up now that we have this template created and run with it
And improve it.
and improve it. And we got grant funding for all of this. So, we just kind of had to put the time and effort into planning it. It's really great. And getting to know your area employee organization reps and your employee organization board. We have a lot of EO members here. So for area 4, I am an area 4 employee organization rep, and so is Sharon Fomentis. Heidi Fleury is our president of our EO. Chris is our vice president of the EO. I know I'm gonna miss a ton of people. So if you are involved in the employee organization, could you please raise your hand? So
Stop hesitating.
every area has 2 representatives plus, the board, for the employee organization. What the employee organization is trying to do is there's been so much turnover, and again, why we're doing this boot camp, that we want to make sure that you don't get completely overwhelmed because there's so much to know. I mean, just fill in that binder up. There's so much to know in your job and so many different things that you do in your job. We try to make sure that your area rep contacts you within the first couple weeks, comes over and spends some time with you, goes over, some of the information they have to share, the handbook. Now we can hand out the boot camp, the flash drive that we have, and just kind of like let you know that there's somebody there in your area that can help you out to ask questions to. Again, sometimes it's easier to ask a question to somebody that you've had direct contact with than just calling up a stranger on the phone and saying, I need help. But that's what the employee organization is all about. And we need to make sure we're utilizing those people, because, we wouldn't be involved in the employee organization if we didn't feel it was important to keep our employees and try to make life easier and better for them if we can in any way possible.
And to make you guys see that we do want to work together. We're all spread out all over Montana, but we can help one another, and we don't need to be afraid to ask someone from another district or town, hey, kind of struggling here, or I'm a little confused on this or something, to reach out. That none of us are going to bite you or yell at you or say, I'm busy, leave me alone. No, I only do that with my children. So you guys are all safe. We're all here for each other, and we want everybody to be here for each other. So be a good group. Veronica, what did you have?
Also, the EO that's on the round table, is the third first Wednesday, that was on some through all admins, new admins, it's a really great virtual meeting, and there's always a chocolate. So definitely the round table is a great committee. Be involved with the EO.
And those meetings are actually really fun. Enjoyed it. I enjoy them personally.
Here's that sends out an email to Wednesday.
Yeah.
On that note, I'm looking for topics for 2023, and I have only gotten a couple. Once the show.
Newsletters.
Yeah, newsletters. I got it.
Dusty attitude.
What attitude is previously.
Well, if that's the case, we're gonna have to basically rotate everybody's name through it.
But yeah, they are really good trainings, and they're all recorded and all put on the employee organization website. That is a wealth of information. So I encourage you all to go there and take a look at it. So we got